is Reel to Reel Podcast. Real stories, real sports. And here's your host, Wube Gabre.
To Reel, and this guest is the definition of what Reel to Reel is about. She's innovative, she's a trailblazer, she's a pioneer in women's sports, and in particular women's basketball. She has unprecedented accomplishments during her basketball career that spans over 3 decades. She's regarded as one of the most greatest figures in women's basketball. She's a Naismith Hall of Famer. She was a women's college basketball player of the year, Big Three coach of the year, back-to-back national champion while she was at Old Dominion. And she got the cool nickname Lady Magic while she was in college. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. This is an honor, and I'm blessed and humbled to have Lady Magic, Miss Nancy Lieberman, on Reel to Reel. Nancy, I know you're busy, and I really appreciate you spending some time with me.
My pleasure. Anything for somebody who loves the Monarchs.
That's right.
This is great. I'm glad to be able to help you.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. So when I say Brooklyn and Queens, New York, what comes to mind?
Humble beginnings, people that fostered my ability and my belief system. And, that started my approach to not being afraid to take the train to Harlem or to Rucker Park or to different parks to play ball.
Did I read correctly, the baseball was your first love? So
it was baseball was my first, actually football was my first sport.
Oh, football. Okay.
I played some, kind of sandlot football leagues. And then I started playing baseball. And I could have played baseball, high school baseball team. I actually could have played baseball at Old Dominion.
Right.
But,
okay.
When I ended up going to Old Dominion, they didn't have women's softball.
Right.
And I was on the softball team growing up at Far Rockaway High School. But baseball was by far my best sport. But it was basketball that got me to the Olympics when I was in high school.
So who put basketball in your hand to introduce you to the game?
I would watch it on TV. In my era, the Knicks were good. They were winning championships. They had Willis Reed, Walt Frazier. There were great rivalries between the Celtics and the Knicks. And I was just mesmerized by Walt Frazier and Willis Reed. I wore number 10 my entire career because of Walt Frazier. So it had an effect on me. I always loved the split-second decision-making. There was no stoppage really in play. You were going up the court to play offense, back down the court to play defense. And I just like being able to go up and somebody come and you can just change and move the ball. I love that aspect of the game.
That's amazing. So you mentioned the African Americans championing you, and I wanted you to tell the story about when you used to go to Rucker Park, the only female playing, and we know how famed and historic Rucker Park was or is. So what was that experience like?
Lavoisier Lamar, I played AAU basketball for him in New York, and he would always take me up to Rucker to play. And he says, you need to just start coming up here all the time. And it was 50-minute ride on the A train. I had T-shirts in my jacket, so I looked big and menacing.
Yeah.
I'd stare at other people, kind of do it to them before they do it to you.
Right.
I was just setting the tone for how the train ride was going to go. Because I was only, 11, 12, 13 years old when I, was on the trains. And I walk into Rucker, and these guys would come up to me and they go, little girl, are you lost? I said, no, are you? And they're like, do you know where you are? I said, yeah, Rucker Park. And I would ask them, I said, what's your name? Is your name Rucker? No, good. It ain't your park. So I
awesome.
You guys are good. You help me. I need to get good. And these guys, we kind of went through every barrier that was put in front of us. Little white girl, Jewish kid, African American, guys from the Bronx. So it was good. And, I made lifelong friends. There's a playground legend up there at Rucker, Joe Hammond. Joey had 72 points in the game. Tiny Archibald and I were doing the first game for ESPN at Rucker. They built a tree house. There must have been thousands of people in the trees on buildings like you've seen in the videos. And somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to play in the second game?" I said, I don't have anything with me. They borrowed sneakers from somebody in the crowd. And I played, he's no longer with us, Arnold Duggar. And matter of fact, somebody just recently sent me the article that talked about, I had 14 points and 10 times, but Joey had 72 points outdoors on metal baskets.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
The backboards. It was crazy.
Yeah. That's all.
But it was pretty unbelievable. It was a pleasure. And so many lifelong friends that I met up in Harlem. And recently, about 4 or 5 months ago, I just went up and filmed Kevin Durant's company, 35 Ventures, is doing, it'll come out, I think, this year on Showtime. And it's called Point Gods of New York City basketball, like God.
Yeah, yeah.
And, Marbury and Mark Jackson and, all the, Rafer Alston, just all the greats of New York City basketball. I was asked to be one of the point gods. So I went and I filmed my part at Rucker. And it was so cool. So before I was Lady Magic at Rucker, I was Fire because of my red hair.
Red hair, right? Yeah.
And it was so cool to be sitting there like at center court at Rucker and people yelling out of the projects, "Fire!
That's
Fire,
awesome.
Fire!
That's awesome.
Welcome home." It just gave me chills because I just love my friends. I love my people up there. And I was treated, protected, and treated, like I was family. And I'll always be treated like I'm family.
That's great. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you honed your skills at Rutgers. So when you had a decision to make to go to college, Old Dominion obviously had a rich history in women's basketball. So was the decision easier because of that, or you're a New York City girl going to Virginia? So what was the mindset choosing Old Dominion?
Old Dominion had no history in winning in women's basketball. You can go back and check, but and I could be fudging on this, but I think the year before I got to Old Dominion, they were something like 6-20. So every time I went to a tryout, they were all the college coaches. I had an advantage over other people who couldn't travel because you just didn't have that recruiting process in the day. But I went down to Old Dominion. I drove down with my friend Barbara. Just loved the area, loved the people. But I also knew that I wanted to go to a program that nobody had ever heard of or was not a winner. I could have gone to UCLA or Delta State or, Cal State Fullerton or UCLA, like I said, UCLA. But I wanted to go to a place that when we got there, me and other women, freshmen, that we would be able to put our thumbprint on the history of the university. So if I have to look back at it, I think it played out well, right? So we go, our first year, we go 23-9, then we go 30-4, then we go 37-1, then we go 35-1, back-to-back championships, win the NIT. And it was just a fantastic place for me to be and to go. I loved it. We were women's basketball.
I mean, that's when everybody started to notice it because of you and your teammates. So you talked about the back-to-back championships. You were player of the year. The Lady Magic nickname. Now, I'm a huge Magic Johnson fan growing up. I mean, I love watching Magic. So this is an interesting story. How did you get the nickname Lady Magic? And was Magic Johnson already Magic Johnson back then, or how'd that all play into play?
Yeah. The men's team was playing in the Optimist Classic, and Michigan State came to play. Magic was throwing all these passes, crazy between the legs, behind the back. And in the Virginia Pilot, the article said, Magic did this, he excited the fans with his, incredible passing. And they said, if he's Magic, Nancy must be Lady Magic because she's been doing those passes for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's
so you were Magic, Lady Magic before Magic Johnson, basically.
Well, we were talking about it every now and again, close, over the course of our history. And I played against his sister, Evelyn Johnson. She played us. So it was good. And I got that nickname. It stuck. And the rest is history.
Yeah. So talk about playing for Coach Marianne Stanley. She was another one of those names that I heard when I got to college. Never had a chance to actually meet her, but if you could just tell a few stories about her and playing for her at Old Dominion.
And I adore Marianne. I just revere her for what she did for me and Old Dominion. And, she's a Hall of Famer. She was a great player when she played at Immaculata. But the reality of our friendship is that in 1976, when I tried out for the Olympic team and I was 17 years old, the last spot on the 76 Olympic team, the first time ever for women's basketball, it came down between me and Marianne Stanley, Marianne Crawford.
Oh, no.
She was a 3-time All-American, 3-time national champion. And, she was 5'6". I mean, smart, like John Stockton, smart, could pass, could make everybody better. She was tiny. I was 5'10", physical, tough New Yorker. Obviously, I didn't have her basketball acumen, but they picked the 12th spot for the future of women's basketball. Well, Marianne got cut, and I made the team. We hardly talked. My sophomore year, we hardly talked because she was only a year or so removed from being a player.
Right.
And I knew I didn't know at the time. And, it had to weigh on her. And now all of a sudden, she's coaching me, the person that, maybe took away her dream. So it took us a while to kind of just hash it out in some private time. But, she made me a champion. She taught me how to be a champion. And I'm very grateful to her.
That's awesome. So as we talked about, you had a great career at Old Dominion. You still lead, the school in assists. I thought Tisha was going to pass you. That's when I was in school, Nancy, when Tisha was there. And everybody's like, oh, she might break Nancy's record, but she didn't quite break your assist record. And you were 3rd all time in scoring. So this is where your story gets really interesting. You leave college and you have some decisions to make. You have some leagues to play in. Obviously, there's no pro league for women yet in the States. So I want you to tell us that story about what your decision making was after college and trying to figure out where you're going to play pro ball.
I get drafted by the Dallas Diamonds, which is why I ended up down here in Dallas and have always kept my home here. But that summer, I was playing in a men's NBA league in New York City at Xavier High School. And Jane Pauley on the morning show did a story on me, and Dr. Buss and Jerry West saw it out in LA. So the Lakers called me and asked me if I would play summer league for them. They said, well, we have a young coach. He used to do the TV for us. His name is Pat Riley, and he's going to coach the summer league to gain some experience. And we would like you to play. Well, I wanted to play, but Pat didn't want me. So apparently, sorry again, I'm not feeling too hot.
That's okay.
So I'm talking to Jerry West, and he says, okay, we're going to get you a ticket. You'll fly out to Loyola Marymount College tomorrow. And I was like, okay. Well, unbeknownst to me, Pat had just had his first practice, and they call him in the office and they say, you're going to get a new player tomorrow. He goes, I don't want a player. I have my team. I had him up against the wall last night stretching. And I told him, this is serious. This is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. So they said, well, Nancy Lieberman is coming tomorrow and she's going to play for you. He goes, I don't want Nancy Lieberman. I told them this wasn't a joke. This was real.
Right.
So they said, okay, Pat, she'll be here tomorrow. Introduce her to her teammates. So I show up at practice the next day, and it's crazy. It's one of those legendary Pat Riley 3-hour practices. Every time Pat would say, okay, I need 5 guys on the floor, I would run out on the court. And, Mike Tebow, who coaches the Washington Mystics.
Yeah, okay.
He was, matter of fact, he was Jordan's coach in Chicago when they drafted him, MJ.
Mm-hmm.
And the coaches are looking because every time they say, I need 5 guys on the court, I sprint on the court. I needed repetition, I needed coaching, and I needed to be out there to know what he wanted to do. So I would run through it. I'd make a mistake. They'd correct me. I'd get, again, repetition. I'd understand what they wanted. And as I walked off to the other point guard, I think it was Zam Frederick, I'd say, well, if you don't know what they're doing, I do, so I'd be happy to help you. I mean, I'm 22 years old. But this is how I was. So I come off the court. We get into all these drills. They beat the crap out of me for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, running me into picks. I mean, these were big guys. And I didn't know this. But after practice, Pat gets in the locker room with Paul Westhead and Dr. Buffs and Jerry West and Mike Tebow. And they go, who the hell does she think she? He acted like she was the best player on the team, to do, where to go, what to run. They beat the hell out of her. She didn't cry, and she tried to start 2 fist fights.
That's New York. That's the New York out of you.
Well, 4 days later, and Pat tells this story to the NBA, and Pat was speaking. I'm sitting next to Nick Nurse, who we had coached in the G League together. Pat's telling this story, and I have an iPad up, and I'm like, and Nick is looking at me like, you didn't tell me you played for Pat. And I'm like,
Oh,
and I'm filming it. And every time he'd look at me and go, isn't that right? And I go, yes, right, yes. And he just says, you know, she taught me something. And I was like, I did? And he goes, in my mind's eye, she did not look like the point guard that I wanted. He said, in life, you have to be open-minded. Like, it's like being an African-American. Maybe you didn't think that was the person that was going to get your job, or you were going to hire. You have to be open-minded. And he told me, you know, he goes, you know, she was, they were bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic, and she didn't fear anybody. And she just went out there and did her job, and she was overmatched every step of the way. He said, but she never backed down. And he says he remembers being in a huddle coaching Knicks, and they were down or whatever. And he said he started thinking about me and what I overcame. I'm like, you got to be kidding. So he's telling this story about, you know, just what he's saying is diversity, inclusion, and opportunity.
Right.
That's what he was saying in a roundabout way. And he goes, Nancy, isn't it right? 4 days later, you're our starting point guard. I go, yes, sir.
Wow.
So, you know, he tells this really incredible story, which I didn't know he had been telling for years.
Yeah.
And making money off of my good name.
Off of your name. Off of your name. Right. So, I mean, you were the first pick in the WPL. You were the rookie of the year in that league. You signed with Springfield. You were the first woman to try out for an NBA team. You played for the Harlem Globetrotters. But then a league called the WNBA, Nancy, starts. And you're 49 years old.
39.
I'm sorry, 39 years old. I know you wanted to give it a shot. So how much motivation and push was it for you to at least get one shot in the WNBA? It was a new league. It was sanctioned by the NBA. And it was just, I know it was something you were really looking forward to.
I don't know if I could play, but I'm at the Olympics in 96. And I'm sitting with Irvin Magic, and we're watching the game, and he looks at me and he goes, hey, you going to play in the WBL next year? And I said, I don't know. He goes, Nancy Lieberman, I have never heard you say I'm not sure. And I looked at him. So I go home. My son TJ's, you know, 2.5. He comes in the kitchen. I said, TJ, what does your mother do for a living? And he goes, you're my mother. Goes, what do I do? He goes, TV.
Yep, that's what he knew.
No, your mother is a basketball player, and she's coming out of retirement, and she's going to play in the WNBA. I said, no, go in there and tell your father. He runs in there, and Tim's in the other room, and he goes, Daddy, we're in trouble. Mommy's coming out of retirement.
Right.
And, you know, Tim comes in and he goes, what are you doing? You just got inducted in Hall of Fame. I said, I gotta try. And I end up, being selected by the Mercury in, the pre-draft, and, being one of the top, 4 players on the team. And I was, very fortunate to play for Cheryl Miller and to be a part of the Phoenix Mercury family. It was an honor to be able to do that at 39.
So you play in WNBA, and then you start transitioning. Let me ask you this: was coaching ever in your future, or did it just happen because you started coaching after that?
Sonny Allen,
Yep.
who was the coach of Old Dominion, he won the 1975 Division II national championship.
Absolutely, I remember that. Yep, I remember reading about it.
Sonny was the assistant coach with the Mavericks. Before that, I mean, Sonny, we would stay in touch with each other, and he would say to me, "Well, if you ever get into coaching, let me know. I'd love to, to kind of coach with you." 1998, I get a phone call from the Washington Mystics, Wes Unseld, and then from the Detroit Shock. And I go to both, and Detroit literally says, "Here, it's yours." The whole franchise is run it. The business, the basketball, the GM. I was like, oh my God. So it was a home run. I'm driving back from my yes meeting.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
And I said, "Sonny, I just took the job as the head coach with this expansion team in the WNBA." I said, "Would you like to be my assistant coach?" He says, "Yes." So I hired Sonny Allen.
Nice.
And, Sonny was great. And, we just recently lost him. But,
yeah,
Sonny just shared a lot of his knowledge and wisdom. And I was very, very happy to have him with me. It was great.
And again, it's an Old Dominion connection. So I know you even enjoyed that more. So
Take care
Detroit.
of each other.
Yep, you did. You had the Mavericks G League. You coached the Kings. And I know we have to move pretty quickly here, but let me ask you this before we move on. You mentioned it, and I mentioned it in the open. The Naismith Hall of Fame, Nancy, a girl from Queens, makes it to the Hall of Fame. What was that whole experience like? And when you got that call, what was your initial thought?
No matter who you think you are, when they say you'll get a call either by 11 or not, you're like staring at the phone.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're MJ or Barkley or Patrick Ewing, it doesn't matter. And it is the most extraordinary opportunity. It's beautiful when the game says thank you to you for what you've done. And I'm still trying to thank the game for everything that, I've experienced. And to be in the Hall of Fame with Oscar and Bill Russell and, all the legendary men in the game. And every time I go to the Hall of Fame, even now, I sit with Bill Russell. I sit with Jerry West. I sit with Walt Frazier. I try to sit with the legends all the time because I want to hear their stories of what it was like, and, to say, well, I'm friends with Bill Russell. I'm friends with Oscar. I'm friends with Dave Bing. All these guys is crazy.
Yes, it is crazy. It is crazy. I mean, you're a legend itself. And one question before we move on to the last segment. So an anniversary just happened 2 years from a few days ago. The late great Kobe Bryant passed away. And I know you were a friend of his. Could you share the last days? I know you talked to him maybe a day or two before he passed away. And I think you were supposed to be on that helicopter ride as well, right?
Well, my son, TJ, who played at Richmond.
Yep, I remember watching him. Yeah.
He thought I died on the helicopter because Friday night, I was in the studio doing TV here in Dallas for the Pelicans. Greg Butler was doing at the time Thunder games, and we had some people in doing the game down in San Antonio. And one of the guys said, "Hey, can you believe that Kobe told a reporter that women could play in the NBA? That's crazy." And I turn around and I go, I'm still here, right? Right, guys? And
yeah.
we're all very close, and we start laughing. And I said, "You know what? Let me text Kobe and see what we got."
Man.
So I go into my phone just like this. I literally text Kobe, and I say to him, I have my text messages. I said, "Hey, do you think women can play in the NBA? Do you want to talk about it?" He says, "Yeah, when?" I said, "Whenever you want." He says, "Let's talk now." I'll paraphrase, but he says they absolutely could. Reporter was acting like they couldn't, that they need to, curse word, But the level of disrespect because they're women are so normal. Dudes just think they can overpower them. It's BS. And it's frustrating as hell to me. NBA players would get served up, let alone some normal weekend warrior ass Joe Blow. Okay.
Man.
So I just said to him, I know the level of disrespect is real. Some people just don't know. I said, you remember when I played for the Lakers and for Pat in 1980 in the USBL in 86,
Right.
87. He says, exactly. I remember that. Nobody talks about that. I couldn't agree with you more. And I just tell him, thanks for fighting for us. Thanks, your baby's at home. You're teaching them they can believe they can do whatever they want. And people impose their mediocrity on us because they know they can't.
Right.
100%, Nancy. I said, hey, I know we've been talking about me coming to practice with you to coach Gigi's team. He goes, when do you want to come? We practice every single night. I said, of course you do. You're 12. And I said, I will text you next week. We'll get the details set. So he gives me a thumbs up. I have to go do TV. That's Friday night. I told TJ, I had just talked to Kobe, I'm going to coach Gianna's team. Do an appearance Saturday night, or late. He calls me around midnight. He goes, okay, let's get this thing firmed up. Kobe's chop. He's very organized. Decided I'd come out on Wednesday, spend the day, stay at the house. We take the helicopter to the Mamba Academy, come back. I could leave Thursday and go back because I had TV Friday, Saturday. Sunday, TJ landed in Italy because he's now playing pro ball.
Okay.
I'm at an event and my phone's ringing and I run out of this auditorium. And TJ, he goes, Mom. I go, TJ, what? He goes, Mom. You can hear it in his voice and I don't know what's wrong with him. He goes, Mom, you haven't heard the news. I said, what news? He goes, Mother, Kobe Bryant died. I go, no, he didn't. I talked to him last night. He goes, Mom, his helicopter crashed and I thought you were on the helicopter.
Oh, man. Wow.
I never got a chance to tell him I was going out Wednesday.
Wow.
So, I about hit the floor and some Secret Service guy grabbed me and took me in a back room. I couldn't breathe.
No.
We had an incredible friendship. He was a great person to me, somebody that I could talk to. I miss him dearly.
I know you do.
And just now really getting to know Vanessa and how powerful she is. And Natalia. It's a tragedy.
It is.
He was one of the most amazing people I'd ever met around.
Yeah, even today, I don't even like to see pictures. I just either turn the TV or it's hard for me because I'm a huge Laker fan and that hit me pretty hard too. So, all right, we got to move on here. I won't get into the big three, but you were the big three coach of the year. I looked at the press conference where Q Richardson just poured all his emotion out, and that hit me too because I really felt his passion about you and how he felt about you coaching the team. Can I get a tryouts? Are they this summer? I have some eligibility left to play some ball. I'm 6'4". We'll see how we can do it. But yeah, you're a big, you got a big three championship, coach of the year. So you're doing that. Last segment though, before we go, it's called the name of the show is Reel to Reel. So I call this segment Keeping It Real. It's a little fun little segment where I throw some quick hitters at you, and the first thing that comes to your mind, you answer. Okay, you ready?
Let's do it.
Pretty fun. All right. I know you've gotten a lot of people in the court, but who was the one person that got you where it made you realize, okay, I need to get my game right, or I need to quit? Who was that one person that got you?
I didn't think I had to quit, but when Michael Jordan and I played
Okay, Jordan.
His camp in 1993.
He got you, huh? He got everybody.
He beat me 10-2. Two best points I've ever scored.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot on these next two questions. You're going to the Rucker. You're playing pickup. You need 5. Give me 4 players and yourself that you're playing with.
I've got Julius Erving. I've got Joe Hammond. I've got Herman the helicopter. I've got Kareem. And I have Arnold Duggar.
That's a good squad. You'll probably win a few games there. Another one to put you on the spot. Another Rucker pickup game, but this time, give me 4 ODU women greats that you're taking with you to Rucker.
I'm definitely taking Tisha.
Okay. Who's playing the point though?
We'll mix it up. I'll let Tisha run the point. I'm taking Medina Dixon. I'm taking Ann Donovan. I'm taking Jen Trombley. And
I forgot about Jen Trombley.
I'm taking Ing Nissen. Donovan Nissen, Tisha, and Jan.
Oh, that's a good Medina Dixon. That's a good squad. It's a good squad. Your most prized possession in your history of sports room. I saw you have a nice history of sports room in your house. What's your most prized possession down there?
Muhammad Ali's gloves.
Yep. And he was a good friend of yours too.
Yes, he was. He was my lifelong friend, and I'm a better person for it.
Last question for you, Ms. Lieberman. I really, again, appreciate this. What motivates Nancy Lieberman these days?
What motivates me is to help change the world. I know I'm an influencer. I want to help on social and racial equality, inclusion, diversity. I've lived it. I am it, and I want to be able to use what I know to try and help other people, inspire other people to help others.
That's awesome. And you've done a lot of that with the Nancy Lieberman Charities. Again, real quick before we wrap this up, how can people get in touch with Nancy Lieberman Charities and you in general?
All they can do is just go to charities.org. We're a children's charity. We have over 4.2 million children in our programs. We've sent 80 high school seniors to college.
Wow.
We help with education, STEM, career readiness, financial literacy, kids and cops. We do our part, to change kids' lives, to build their confidence, self-esteem, and how they feel about themselves.
Nancy, this, like I said before, this is an honor. And I really appreciate you coming on my show, not knowing who I was and spending some time with me. I know you're feeling a little under the weather, but you still found some time, and that just goes to what everybody said about you. You're down to earth and humble, and I really appreciate this. I really do.
Well, thank you so much. Good luck with your show, and I know you're going to do great things.
All right, I appreciate it, Nancy. I'll talk to you later, and I'll let you know when all this pops on social media. Thank you very much.
Bye. Go Monarchs.
That's right, all day, all day.
This is Reel to Reel Podcast. Real stories, real sports.